Welcome back to Behind the Page with Anne Burnett. I am Anne Burnett, and I just finished writing chapter 15 of The Dragon King Invites You to Tea, which is a fantasy that I'm posting on Kindle Vella. And looking back over the last few chapters, I thought this might be a good opportunity to share some of my options and decisions I had regarding scene structure, sequencing, and points of view choices. So let's get started. So I'll give you a little background if you're not familiar with the story, and that would be great if you were to be reading it, or if this inspires you to read it as I write it. So a little background, and this contains some spoilers. The story is about a dragon king named Volred who is obsessed with humans and discovers that he is smitten with a human woman named Marigold. And in this world, dragons can take human form, and the human world has been enchanted such that both dragons and their lands are invisible to them unless the enchantment has been lifted by a dragon. So in part one, Volred and Marigold learn that they share what Marigold calls a happiest path that she can foretell by reading tea leaves. Meanwhile, Volred is being pressured to take a mate for political reasons and has been given a list of the 3 most favored candidates. And part one mostly takes place at Marigold's cottage. Another main character is Roger, a human that Volred saved as a boy, who now serves him as an aide and confidant. So a lot of our scenes are from Roger's point of view. So now it's time for part two, and we're leading up to the tea party that's in our title. So I'm going to be explaining this decision process that I went through using PowerPoint here, but all my thinking and decision making happens in my head. But so this is just a look back at those thoughts and not really how I do this. So let's start by looking at point A. So we've started off as this is the beginning of part two, and point B, which is the tea party. Okay. Now, my choice is or one option is to smash cut right to the tea party. But I dismissed that option right away because the tea party, as the title implies, is the pivot point of our story, and we need to establish where everyone is coming from, as it were, in order to achieve some tension. And we still need to show Volred and Marigold bonding because they've just met, and even though they realize that they're kind of fated to be together, they don't really know each other. I mean, this is perfectly fine for Volred, but Marigold would really like to get to know him before, um, committing to such a life. So another option is to follow Volred and Marigold on their journey as they get to know each other. So we can show them on the road, going to the castle. Oh, I forgot to say that at the end of part one, they hatched a plan to hold a tea party in order to show the candidates that their happiest paths do not include Volred. So they think that if they're able to show the candidates, hey, look, he's not the one who's going to make you the happiest in your life, that they will not even want to pursue any kind of marriage alliance. Okay, so that was out of order. I, I apologize for that. So back to part two. So we're working up to this tea party. So Valred and Marigold are on the road and they're getting to know each other. So that's going to be some scenes. And our choice is to follow that path, follow them along. Um, at some point, he has to reveal the dragon lands to her, lift that enchantment, and then they'll arrive at the castle. Okay. And then we could go right to the tea party. However, and then um, we could then meet the candidates at the tea party. But I had a scene that I had in my head of the first candidate named Annalise meeting with Roger, coming to the castle early, and they have a scene together. Uh, so that would happen before Valred and Marigold arrive. And before that happens, I want to find out about Annalise. Who is she? What's her personality? What's her reaction to being invited to this tea party and as a marriage candidate for Valred? So let's back up a little bit, back to day one. And so we'll have scenes of meeting these candidates. So the first candidate, who's Annalise, is going to receive an invitation, and then the second and third candidate will receive their invitations. We'll get to know them. We'll get to know their reactions. And so there we have our scenes. And we know when they're, how they're laid out and if they're coinciding as far as time, over the timeline. So let's add that timeline. So we've got these 4 days moving ahead. So day 4 will be the tea party. So we're coming up. We're moving along. But how do we want to structure these scenes? Do we just how are we going to present them? How are we going to structure them? So first, I came up with little images to represent these scenes to be a little more interesting. And we're going to talk about them and go into edit mode here in PowerPoint to put them on our timeline. Let's make this full screen. Okay, so let's meet the first candidate. Okay, so it's Annalise. We are going to use her point of view to get to know her and her thoughts and how she's reacting to this invitation and what she decides that she's going to do, that she's deciding she's going to early. We learn that she doesn't necessarily like Allred that much, but and that's been stated earlier in part 1. But for some reason, she wants to get to the castle, to get to Valred's castle early. Then I wrote that one first, and then I wrote Valred and Marigold on the road, and I thought I would intersperse the candidates getting their invitations, and Valred and Marigold on the road. So I wrote the Annalise scene, then Valred and Marigold on the road, then the other 2 candidates getting their invitations and how they reacted to them. And that's how I wrote them. For the red dragon, who's named Turmalina, for that point of view, instead of using her point of view, I decided to use a third party point of view that we hadn't met before. He's kind of a new character. And I did that because I wanted to show her excitement and her personality from another viewpoint. So we're not actually looking at knowing her thoughts directly. We're just seeing her reacting in her actions and everything. And then for the third candidate, which is this bronze dragon here, and they really aren't in the same location. It's just this image. But they are in the same chapter. So I'm showing them here together. So this bronze dragon, that scene is from her point of view. And you don't hear her thoughts necessarily, but we do hear her reactions and how she is reacting and deciding about things from her interactions with other dragons that are in the scene. So after I wrote this scene, I said, I was going to go on to, back to Ball Red and Marigold. But then I said, you know what? I think I should have both of these reaction scenes, um, one after the other. Just makes sense before we go back to our main characters and put them on the road. So now we can just kind of follow that flow. I think it flowed better. Then I did intersperse um, I followed that. I didn't go directly to another Ball Red and Marigold scene. I went to Roger and Annalise because, now it's day 2. That's happening on day 2. She arrives. This is her human form. Uh, she does arrive early. This is from Roger's point of view because he wonders, why is she here early? I'm trying to prepare for this tea party. Um, and so he's kind of confused and trying to figure out why she's there early, especially when he thinks that, and she confirms that, she's not a fan of Vol Reds. So why is she there early? So that's from his point of view. Sorry. So then we can go back to Volred and Marigold, which kind of spans between day 2 and day 3, and the um, enchantment is he lifts the enchantment from her, and so now she can see the Dragonlands and see his castle. Okay, so that's where we are now. That's the last scene that I've written. So now the next scene that's going to happen is going to be also on day 3, where they actually arrive. Um, and she sees the castle for the first time and realizes this tea party is going to be happening, and she's going to be a focal point, and um, everyone's going to be looking at her. So um, she starts to get nervous about being here and learning all about this dragon stuff. Okay, so that's so once I write that, we'll be moving on to the tea party itself, and I'll be going through another planning session in my head because I won't be doing it this way. Um, it'll all be happening in my head. Usually before I go to sleep at night, I think about these things. So for the tea party, I'll have lots of characters there. I'll have all these candidates arriving and their um, their families, their noble families, and other dragon kings are coming, etc. They're all coming, so there'll be a lot of characters. Roger will be there, Valrid and Marigold, the castle staff. So there'll be a lot of activity to handle. So, um, whose point of view will there be several? Well, will I just choose one point of view for the whole tea party scene? Um, you know, what will be the most interesting? Um, and revealing. I mean, sometimes you choose a character. Sometimes I choose a character because I don't want all to be revealed. I want them to just be reacting to things they don't understand, um, that sort of thing. So this will be happening some more um, as we move along. Keep writing. Let's go back here so I can just, here's our scenes planned out. They're ready to go. Um, I'm just thinking, would this be a good method um, to plan out that tea party and the points of view? Maybe so. I don't know. Um, I could try it. That mostly happens in my head. Okay, so um, like and subscribe and all that stuff to my channel. Um, and I'd like you to check out my website at ambernath.com. I don't know why it moved on. Um, and I hope you found this interesting. And I don't know if it's because I mean, you're here because you are writers or you want to be writers, or if you just wonder how the writing process happens, or but I'm just glad you're listening and watching. And tune in next time. Okay, thanks. Bye.